Hey guys, welcome to another episode of View from the Cheap Seats, our look at the week in sports, aka The Week
W-E-A-K.
in Sports. We are here, and we are so excited. We have an NFL insider on the show today. Fantasy insider, Adam Rank. He knows so much about the fantasy game. He's in 20 leagues that we just learned. And he is going to give you some information, some guys to look at. We're going to talk Bears because he's a huge Bears fan, and Caleb Williams, what that means to him, Rome Odunze, the hope as a fan, as someone this is his sport, but then he's a fan as well. And then we'll get into some quick hits, some crazy week stuff happening in the world of sports. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Sr. What are you guys doing?
A fantasy analyst hurts his shoulder in his draft sequencing. The way to figure out their draft. It's all going to be broken down by us in quick hits. You will love that. And, of course, we have an amazing Patreon and a brilliant voicemail from Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage, who will be playing John Madden in the John Madden story. I can think of 100 other guys that I would have do it before him.
Including Frank Caliendo.
That's right. But let's jump off.
Top take, let's start talking about college football. College football is here.
Did you watch the Florida State
game? I watched
game?
the Florida State-Georgia Tech game, and it was so
from Ireland
satisfying.
First of all, I'm loving the international games. I love the fact that college football, which is so regional in the United States,
so American and regional, is coming off in other countries in a small soccer stadium.
Yeah, 30,000, 35,000.
Amazing. The electricity, the fact that it was won on a kick. The original football.
The excitement of that game. And I don't care about Florida State. I don't care about Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I didn't particularly care who won. I just wanted to see a good game. But then when an upset was imminent and it was possible,
so fun.
It was exciting. You rooted for Georgia Tech. You know, the last top 10 team Georgia Tech had beaten, Florida State.
There you go.
A few years ago.
There you go.
This was a huge win. It reminds you, and it reminds us, and this leads to our top take, that college football has become college basketball.
Yeah.
Because of NIL, because of the transfer portal, college football has become college football in that.
College basketball.
I'm sorry. College football has become college basketball in that if you have a team that has played together, if you have a culture of winning and toughness, if you take 3- and 4-star kids who maybe aren't going to demand a ton of money, but are instead going to try and make themselves into 5-star
and are willing
kids,
to stay in your system for 2, 3, 4 years.
You can build chemistry, and you can deal with
a bunch of 5
adversity.
stars.
So what did Florida State have? All of a sudden, they were in a dogfight. They weren't expecting that. No one was expecting that. Florida State has a ton of NFL talent. They got transfers. They got kids who come in who are 5 stars, who are freshmen.
They're throwing bags at kids by being like, here's all your money. Do you want to come to Florida State because you like the school?
Not
No.
understanding what kind
we're
of
the
character.
highest bidder.
Not understanding what kind of character the kids are, not understanding whether or not the kids fit in the program. I'm not saying this is why Florida State lost. I'm just saying when you have a hodgepodge of highly sought-after, high-skilled players, Texas A&M has this problem. Other schools that throw the bag at people left and right, if you don't build a culture, a team culture of guys who have been around for years and years, waiting their turn, learning from the guys in front of them who have won championships. Then you get into an adverse situation, you get into a hard time, you get down in a game. How are they going to respond?
So
you don't know?
So that's what that game meant for me, is hope that you don't have to have the same level of talent as another team. If you do have the culture, you can beat them, which – fast forward to the end of the year, you now got a 12-team playoff. Maybe a Boise State squeaks in as the 12th team.
Or a Utah, a team that's known for its toughness, a team that has a chance to beat teams that are better than them simply by turning a game into a rock fight, staying down in the mud, making a team that normally scores 34 points to score 17 points. Now you're in it.
See if they can win a tougher game. And so as a result, you then have an opportunity where it levels the playing field.
It levels the playing field. These teams that are able to hoard 5 stars because they and top transfer players just because they've got the cash, they've got the money, they have the boosters, they have the whole system in place. It's like, okay, you can do that, but you know what? When you come up against a team with high culture, when you come up against a team that, it's like
has a system in
coming
place.
up against a team we say college basketball because teams that have a lot of juniors and seniors who've gelled in a
your
program.
St. Peter's, your Loyola of Chicago.
Who've played in college for a while, who've stayed there. You got a guy, who was the kid, the 3-point shooter from, was it Oakland, Michigan, Oakland University.
Oh my God, I
in
love
Michigan.
that guy.
Like that's
That guy
a
was
guy
like 24 years old.
Yeah, but he was unflappable. If you got a 24-year-old playing against an 18-year-old, and you got a guy who's willing to do whatever it takes to score, who's been playing college players for 4, 5, 6 years, of course they're going to have an advantage.
It's great, and it's why you love the tournament, and it gets me excited about
the college football season because a
final.
lot more is up in the air than it used to be. That's what we're saying. We're saying the hoarding isn't stopped. That's what's so interesting.
It's gotten worse.
The hoarding of 5 stars and the hoarding of top-level talent has not stopped at certain universities. However, it doesn't always mean you're going to win. And that's why we turn on and watch the games. That's why we're so excited. That's why, as Michigan fans, we can say that, that's a team that typically doesn't recruit at as high of a level of the school, but you hope you get high character guys.
Yeah.
There's hope for schools like that. Hope for schools that say, you know what, we're going to build it a different way. And that's what's exciting about college football.
So
and we're
I
at
cannot
that
wait.
season. Can't
we're
wait to
there,
see
baby. This weekend is week 1. Last week was week
0.
I hope
We're
you're
up.
enjoying it, and I hope you just, for all the
The
fans.
long drought of summer is over. We're into the fall sports season. It's an exciting time for sports fans. Enjoy it. When we come back, we're going to talk pro football and fantasy
football with the great Adam Rank. We'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. So happy this dude is on for many, many reasons. A, we love him. B, he's got tremendous knowledge in the world of fantasy and fantasy football. And then just get to pepper him with questions about the NFL. You're such a good hang and a funny dude. Adam Rank, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Love the new studio.
Right?
Thank you.
And this is what's important too, is we are trying to figure out when we could do this.
I know.
Based on my but based on everything that's going on, and we're like, do you want to do a Zoom? And I said, no.
No.
Gotta
You
be
in
in studio.
And
We
you
love you
come
in
all the
studio.
way up from Orange County, right? Or
Well,
no?
I was in Inglewood today, so
Okay.
I won't lay on the guilt trip too much, but
Inglewood.
still a little bit.
Up to no
Is that
good.
over by SoFi?
It's right across from SoFi.
Beautiful.
You could hit a wedge into SoFi Stadium from where we're at.
It's
Did
truly
you have
one
a-
of the.
Did you have a wedge in your hand?
We have one in our locker room. Patrick Claybon and I will go out to the demo field, and we've been shoot off there
And
plenty
just
of times. Can we chip?
Yeah,
do
you could
whatever.
chip
Of
a
course
little
you
bit.
do.
Chip.
Got some downtime.
You replace your divots. You have like the gas.
Absolutely.
The
I have the sand.
thing.
I always have
Yeah.
the sand with me, just
the
in
green
case.
sand, which reminds me of like when someone would puke in the hallway
And you throw the strawberry
strawberry
salt on it.
salt on it.
Those
Yeah.
strawberry
Just
salt on
kind
it.
of
We were
now-
sawdust on the West Coast.
Sawdust.
strawberry salt. We had chemicals.
Can we start right now? And we know you're a Bears fan.
Yeah.
Take your temperature.
Okay.
How we feeling?
I mean, it is very evident from Hard Knocks that there's new excitement around this program and this team that hasn't been there for a long time.
And it feels justified.
Yeah.
Right, for the first
So
time.
many times it was wish casting,
Sure.
hoping this player is going to be.
Exactly.
Now, for starters, nobody thought Mitch Trubisky was going to be good. He was getting booed at Bulls games before he even took a snap with the Bears. So it was really nobody was really into that. But it's like he's our quarterback. So we got.
Here's how bad Mitch Trubisky is. I was watching the Patriots game last night, preseason game with my friend who played football at Wesleyan, and he was like, Drake May, the Mitch Trubisky
Thank you.
right? So that's what he said about Drake
Same
May.
thing. Same thing. Like
I think Drake May could be better.
could be better.
but
he,
not.
he showed me some things last night.
That's
he could
not
be a
saying
Ryan Tannehill. Like,
Yeah.
there's a mediocre level of talent.
Which, by the way, is still super talented.
Super
Way
talented.
better than us. If we're playing pickup football in Santa Monica,
Sure.
Ryan Tannehill should be the quarterback.
Right, but there's a
Easily.
mediocre, like the size of their hands,
Yeah.
their height, their ability to throw a ball in any or direction and distance they can throw. All the measurables are there, but there is a massive difference between Mitchell Trubisky and Caleb
Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams.
So
Absolutely.
those aren't even two. They don't even seem like two of the same player. Two of the same They're not even both football players. One of them is somebody who is a creator, somebody who figures out how to get in the end zone and score. You trust them to make things happen when nothing is happening. The other guy's like running the system.
I mean, Caleb Williams is not going to do it this year. He's going to have his heart. He's going to have the best you can hope for is CJ. He's eventually CJ Stroud.
Well, I mean, like C.J. Stroud took some time and then developed and got a thing because the offenses are now designed for these college kids coming up.
Yeah.
They were talking about this in the broadcast. I believe it was the Sunday night game where Chris Collinsworth was
Right.
talking about like how they've dumbed down the offenses people like Peyton Manning get upset, but it's like you want your guys to be successful the moment that they step on the field.
Absolutely.
And so many of these players are coming from the pro-style offenses to where it wasn't like back in the day where Tommy Frazier is coming from Nebraska to try to go out there and learn an NFL offense, which is going to be nearly impossible. Caleb Williams has been doing that, and that's the most impressive thing about him compared to Mitch Trubisky, Justin Fields, and some of the other guys. It's everything he does pre-snap. And he goes through and he breaks it down in the press conferences. He had a scramble against the Bills in his first game, and he was talking about the Bills have been having, 2 high safeties, or no, 1 high safety. Then they rolled the safety back, so I knew that this was going to be open, a possibility over the middle, but they rolled to it, so I ran. And it's like, oh, that's a very discernible thing.
I saw, and actually Drake May did this last night and got a first down, but the pocket moved past him.
Right. The
safeties were back. You had a couple of receivers and a tight end out there that could block a little bit, and he gained 15 yards.
It was perfect.
I'm like, that is a smart way to play this. It's like you may not be able to fit this into the tightest of windows. Just run your thing and get your yards.
But but knowing what you're doing, knowing your progression, and looking, because with Justin, and this is no disrespect to him,
but let's please disrespect that.
But a little bit of a disrespect. If his first guy wasn't open, then he was gone.
Right.
It was one read and I'm gone, and he would miss things over the middle, which I don't believe is going to be a problem for Caleb, who's going to go through the progressions of what he was doing. Justin Fields came from Ohio State, where it was Jamison Williams, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, where you only had to make one read.
Right.
That guy was getting open. Whoever your primary was going to be open. He didn't have to go through it. Caleb has been the most impressive pre-snap and then going through his progressions and finding his things.
I feel like he throws guys open too. You'll see a guy who doesn't look open, but you're like, that guy will get a step. Let me just throw it a little past. I mean, and you got to love Rome Odunze. That's a guy who
he's fun.
He's fun.
I mean, you're seeing everything you want out of him now.
Yeah.
He'll be a good maybe 650 yards this year, 45 catches, whatever.
Yeah.
He's going to break a few long ones. He's going to be great as a second year and unbelievable as a third
end of the
year.
First year is when it's really going to happen. We'll see a lot in the early game. We saw it already.
Yeah.
There was actually, I think it was the Bengals game, where he had Rome single coverage who actually beats his man, but he was looking for DJ Moore.
Right.
And he forced the ball into DJ Moore, which, again, you're a young player. You're like, who am I going to go for? I'm going to go for DJ Moore. I'm going to take the chance, try to throw him open, as you were saying.
Right.
That he's going to start diagnosing that better as the season goes on.
Because he'll evolve.
And he will do that. And the most impressive thing, now they go into that game against the Bengals at 3 and outs, and you're like, well, here goes it. It's the same thing all over again, but Matt Eberflus leaves them in. They go down, they score a field, goes Rome Odunze in an end around that kind of kickstarted the offense.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
On the touchdown drive, the pass that he threw to Rome, which ended up being incomplete because Rome was out of the back of the end zone.
Stepped out of the back of the end zone, yeah.
That was the most impressive throw. That was, regardless of what happened on that play, you're like, oh, this is happening. It's kind of like when you watch somebody playing golf and you're like, you just had the wrong club, but it was the right, the swing.
Also,
and
it's the
preseason.
Show me you can make that throw. Who gives a shit? No one cares about the preseason.
Yeah.
Literally, no one cares about the score. You just want to see the thing get done.
Are you making the right read? Are you putting the ball in the right spot? Rome's got to be better.
I think he's going to be better than Randy thinks. I think the Bears are better now and better coming into this season than they've been in decades.
It's a fun division. The Packers are good. I think they're going to be
Lions will be good.
I wish the Vikings would have been.
They'll be okay. And this is where Caleb's problems will come in, is when he gets dialed up against Brian Flores.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that first game against the Vikings. I'm like, I already am not. Thankfully, it's at the end of the year.
That's right.
I already don't like it, because when you go up against these defensive coordinators who are turned head coaches,
right,
there's where you run into a little bit of trouble.
That's right.
Which is like that. We'll see that in week 2 against Houston, where DeMeco Ryans
such a good defensive coach
will have something dialed up, and Caleb's going to see something that he hasn't seen yet.
Right.
Well, he'll see something, think he's got the right diagnosis, and then immediately it changes. It's kind of what it's what made, which is interesting, and we'll see kind of what he does in Seattle, what made Mike McDonald such a good defensive coordinator at Michigan. It's what made Jesse Minter so good. Will he be able to do that?
I really like what he's got going on, and I know when I was doing my preseason picks, I wasn't very kind to the Seahawks, but I'm like, listen, it'll be good in year 2.
That's right.
Yeah.
Murphy will be coming into his second year. The defense will be getting better. But right now, you've got Geno Smith, who lost Shane Waldron, Dave Canales, and even Pete Carroll, who was a better quarterback guru than people give him credit for.
He is.
It's going to be tough for Geno this year. So I think the Seahawks will struggle a little bit, but eventually we'll get there.
I mean, and if they do struggle, maybe they get a better quarterback. Maybe they get a better quarterback than Geno Smith. Like, I feel like, again, you say, okay, the Bears have hope because they got a generational, you hope, type quarterback.
I think before J.J. McCarthy went down, he looked pretty good in that first
I don't want
showing.
I don't want to blow up any sources, and by saying this, I will be. JJ was actually the Bears' number 2 quarterback on their board.
Right.
Like
I believe it.
If the Bears, if something would have happened and Carolina had finished with more wins, the Bears would have drafted JJ McCarthy.
He's a Chicago kid. He's really smart. He will be a great pro.
I think so.
The offense he was told to. What I love about him is the offense he was told to run at Michigan. He ran without being upset. So you want a team player without being like, I'm not showing off the things that and it hurt him in his draft stock. Because I think he could have shown other things.
Right.
They also protected him from injury a couple times. He could have used his legs a lot more. He's a tough kid.
Yeah.
That's why it's such a bummer you're not going to get to see him this year. I think he would have sat for most of the year. I think Sam Darnold was your guy.
Yeah, 8 or so games. And I think the Vikings will be competitive enough to where you probably would want to go with Sam Darnold. But it's very – and I don't want to put this on him because it's not fair. But, like, we remember Michael Jordan – in college of being like, he's a good player.
Right.
That's a solid player.
Absolutely.
And then he becomes MJ. And we see that a lot of times. Calvin Johnson, this is probably a better example.
Yeah.
Calvin Johnson ran with the triple reverse, like wing T, Georgia Tech team.
Yep.
And then he comes to the Lions and becomes one of the greatest players of all time.
Because it was the perfect system for him to do the thing that he did. Some guys are just they're transcended over system.
Yeah.
Some guys are like, you just need to put him in the right place. I think like Brock Purdy is in the perfect place for him to succeed.
Right.
He was a great quarterback in college. He was good, but he certainly wasn't like, oh, this guy. He's going to lead his teams. No, he's just the perfect guy to run that offense with
tough
those
defense,
weapons.
couple weird weapons,
incredible running back.
Unless they lose, Brandon, I'm aware. What's the latest
Who knows?
on him?
I mean, it's where I don't know when everybody's listening to this. CeeDee Lamb signed on Monday, so that's kind of one domino.
Sure.
Brandon Ayuk cannot think that he's getting as much money as CeeDee Lamb.
There's no way.
He's got to look at what DJ Moore signed for and say, like, maybe I'm kind of in that range. And even then, I feel like San Francisco, they're looking at this. Ricky Pearsall's returning to practice. They're like, is this where we need to spend our money? We got a lot of people we got to pay at some point.
A lot.
Is this the guy that we need to pay? And Peter Schrager put this out. He's like, there was a connection. Brandon Ayuk was at ASU when Jaden Daniels was there. Washington has a need for a number 2 wide receiver. Why are they not in the mix for a Brandon Ayuk trade?
For a number 2 wide receiver. So he wants number 1 wide receiver money. And
I think he would be better than McLaurin. But
I think he would too. But
McLaurin's
it's tough.
so reliable.
He's so reliable. But Ayuk is reliable too. Ayuk makes unbelievable circus catches.
Yeah.
But you got to say to yourself, does Washington? Yes. Is Daniels going to be that guy this year? I think he needs a little more time.
They need an offensive line because that concerns me. But they really should be on a similar schedule to what teams like the Texans and the Bears have done. Like, we've invested in this young quarterback. You have to start going out and getting as many weapons as possible.
That's right.
And so if you put those 2 guys together, and then it's going to be weird. I know he's an older player. He was banged up last year. But Austin Eckler, in that offense.
I saw that last night. I'm like, wait, he's on the Commanders?
As a pass catcher,
it
makes a lot of sense. Brian Robinson Jr., this is really would be the best possible situation for Austin Eckler. Just let Brian Robinson go out there first and second down, and then you bring in Eckler as your third down back.
Right.
That's going to be
hand it off to him from time to time.
Yeah.
Like
Mix
switch it up.
Mix him up. You don't want to telegraph that when he's in the game he's going to catch
Great
a pass.
Great
so
point.
you need every third or fourth time to like design a run.
He can do that. It's interesting because in thinking about Blake Corum, a guy who went to Michigan and seeing what sort of an impact he could have on the Rams, I actually think he could do great stuff. Great short yardage guy because he's so small. Kind of Eckler-esque in that, like, you don't know where he is.
He's
and then the next thing you know, he's got 3 yards
in front of him. He's similar to the guy who's in front of him on the Rams.
Yeah.
This is the fight that we've been having all fantasy season.
Yeah.
Since the end of June, when I really get into it, like,
Right.
all the sharps, so to speak.
Right.
Because everybody loves Blake Corum for all the reasons that you put out there. But at the same time, Kyron Williams was so good last year.
He really
Kyron
was.
Williams, people are saying that's a top 3 or 4.
He averaged 95 rushing yards per game. Like, he's excellent. And I think Sean McVay's history,
He likes to run a couple of backs out there.
Wouldn't you want to take a little tread off him and have him ready for the end of the season?
I think that's the big problem. I think that's the big thing.
So
Which sucks for fantasy owners. Smart
great.
for how you're playing your guys.
Yeah.
Who are all right? We have you here for fantasy stuff, and obviously you're excited about the Bears. But
I want to talk about Aaron Rodgers. real
okay,
quickly.
we'll get into that a little because we can tie it to his fantasy worth.
Sure,
It's his fantasy worth, but in general, his worth.
I mean, have we completely forgotten everything that happened this summer just because now he's here? And I mean, he won't participate in one preseason game.
Yeah. Everybody forgot. They've moved on.
Moved on. Who cares if he didn't go
He's
to
back.
this?
When you have the history at quarterback that the Jets do, and it rivals the Bears, and even the Commanders in a little way, like, you kind of forget because he's so good. You're like, oh, okay. I mean, now that RFK Jr. has dropped out of the race, he has more time to devote
That's right.
to playing quarterback.
Right. He's like less.
Now
'cause
he's
there was a
gone.
chance he could have been in that cabinet.
Could've
Could have been on that
been.
ticket.
Could have been in the
Secretary of State or something.
head of health.
The emissary to Egypt. I don't know what he was going to have done. He was a huge fan of Egypt, by the way, and the pyramids.
He is.
You do.
Egypt as a country.
Yeah.
Egypt as a country. Pyramids.
Yep.
Pythagorean theorem.
Right.
Those are two. That's like they returned the opening kickoff.
To the house.
They Hestered it.
And now they've just
and
been
now you're like, what have
losing
you guys been
yardage
doing
ever
since? You need
Yeah.
they need
They
something.
need to broker a ceasefire
That's-
deal and the hostages to come home, and I'm telling you,
It's
you
so
get-
fair because
Right?
that like
They're
if you,
due.
If you look
Egypt,
at
you're due.
if you look at the life of a Bears fan, what has happened since Hester returned the opening kickoff?
You've been
for a
losing
touchdown?
yardage ever since.
It's gone.
You're
all downhill.
Egypt. You're Egypt.
It's all downhill.
You're the Egypt of teams.
But I really, and I went through, each year in the beginning of June, late May, early June, is I do my predictions and projections, and then, you go through it, and then today, actually, I went through it and was readjusting some things. I still really believe in the Jets, and I think
believe people are picking them to win the division.
Yes, I can't remember. I had them tied with the Dolphins. I don't remember who got the tiebreaker.
God, Garrett Wilson. I mean, you have
But it's a good team.
Good
it's
team.
A good roster.
Great
defense.
Unbelievable
defensive-minded coach.
Yep.
All you needed is a little bit of offense.
He doesn't have to be the Aaron Rodgers of his MVP.
No.
Doesn't have to
No.
scramble. Just get outside the pocket, make a couple throws on the run.
Brees Hall.
You got Brees Hall. You
Brees
got
Hall.
Garrett Wilson. I wonder if they'll end up regretting this because they signed 2 tackles in the offseason who are very good. You need veteran guys to protect Aaron Rodgers.
Sure.
They went with Olaf Fashanu,
Who is
a
Penn
long
State guy.
it's a great player and everything, but it's like
project.
if you would have taken Brian Thomas Jr. As a field stretcher, which is what Aaron Rodgers I think he might have been better off, but we'll see. Because if the Jets do win the division or make the playoffs like people anticipate, Robert Saleh is going to be there, which means you're still building for the future. And next year, I guarantee you there'll be a wide receiver available in there. But I'm just curious as to how it works out. But I still haven't committed to my Super Bowl pick. And the one thing that I really want to pick, and I'm sort of arguing with my editors because they know you probably shouldn't pick this because nobody takes you seriously if you do this. But I'm like, Bears beat the Jets in the Super Bowl as a final nail.
I mean, that's a swing.
As a final nail in the coffin of the Aaron Rodgers thing.
Oh my
is
God!
that if the Bears beat Aaron Rodgers in the Super Bowl in Caleb Williams' rookie season,
would be the
If that were
greatest rookie season.
So here's the question: as you as a voice in the whole thing, do you want to take the chance that people probably won't remember your prediction no matter what you do unless it's this?
Yeah.
Unless it's right and it's insane.
Yeah.
So if it's insane and it's right and you can point back to that, then everyone's gonna be like this guy. If it's mediocre in terms of excitement level but kind of safe and it also doesn't come true, what if
anyone
Hey,
can
I
pick
picked
the Chiefs?
I picked the Eagles over the Chiefs.
Right.
Congratulations.
Great.
So
Good
did
luck.
the other people.
Good luck. That's everybody.
Sometimes you have to be so on brand.
or so out of control,
So out of the box. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
What do you think Harbaugh's chances are in San Diego or in the Chargers, LA? It's
LA
already been
Chargers.
said. What do you think he's going to do in year one?
Year one concerns me because I think they need a lot of help on the roster. Now, obviously, where Jim Harbaugh has traded jobs and moved up the ladder and
taking other guys' players and turn them into winners.
Because he went to Stanford and they were 4-8.
Yeah, but he took Singletary's players in the pros. They were like 6-10, and he made them 11.
But they almost went to the Super Bowl.
Right.
Like if they had not muffed a punt in the NFC Championship game, they would have been in the Super Bowl. They would have played Brady. Like who knows what would have happened. Sure. I really believe that Jim Harbaugh is going to have that team good. They're going to be competitive this year. I don't think the record's going to be there, but I think in year two is when they really take off. I think his trajectory is similar to what it was at Stanford as opposed to Michigan and San Francisco.
So enough wins in the opposite direction. I don't even know how many wins the Chargers had last year. They have like 6 wins last year.
I'm trying to think where they drafted. They were okay. Yeah, but they had a lot of weird losses.
They had a lot of close losses and again, Justin Herbert gives you the opportunity to come back and win games. But no Keenan Allen this year.
We're relying on Ladd McConkey, which is good because
not a bad player.
Greg Roman, his offensive, they've always favored. Obviously, they run. They've always favored the slot receiver.
Yes,
and I think Ladd McConkey could end up being this year's Puka Nacua. I think everybody's trying to pick that now. They're looking at everybody, and obviously the top 3 guys off the board are guys to look at: Jalen Polk,
sure,
Julian McMillan down in Tampa Bay, possibly, but I think it's Ladd McConkey.
I think Ladd McConkey is too. I think in that Georgia system, he had to play a lot of tough games against a lot of high-level talent, and you're playing against LSU DBs, you're playing against Alabama DBs.
There are certain guys in this league who don't have the speed, no offense to Ladd McConkey, who aren't these 4.1 40-yard dash burners who just get open. Right. They just know how to get open. What does that mean? They can sell their fakes. They can make great cuts out of.
I mean, Puka Nacua is like.
I'm like, what? How fast is he? How big
and
is
tough
he?
And tough.
He's not, but
he's an unbelievable fantasy.
He's a
option.
great.
He's good.
He'll be good this year.
He's battling injuries right now.
He always is battling injuries because that's the way he plays. Like, I wonder if you could change him and be like, all right, just finesse this a little more. I just don't think that's
But you don't want to.
is.
You don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to coach that out of him.
Right.
And it's funny too because everybody's sleeping on Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is now the most decisive player in fantasy, and I was like, you have to draft him. It used to be like 3rd round, I'm getting him. Yeah. Now it's like 2nd round, and people are like, I'm out. His decline, and I'm like, he got hurt a couple of times, but he's still going to be the number 1 wide receiver, the most targeted guy.
And Puka Nacua takes pressure off of him, doesn't allow you to double him and whatnot, to key on him. So it's like he's going to be fantastic. I think Stafford's going to have another good, he's going to have another good year.
I agree with that. I think the Rams are very good. I think they've drafted really well, and despite losing Aaron Donald, they did a great job last year picking Kobe. And then the 2 guys they got from Florida State this year, they've rebuilt that defensive line, and I think they'll be very good. And for a team that disregarded with reckless abandon, with picks and everything, didn't care, and now they're completely rebuilt their entire team.
Yeah.
And they're ready to go.
Also good on a young coach, even though it feels like he's been around forever, right? Doesn't it feel like he's like an old grizzled veteran?
Right.
But
still probably one of the youngest coaches.
Still one of the youngest coaches. Just like good on him for being able to sort of understand that you have to change. Well, Harbaugh kind of did that at Michigan.
Yeah.
He was one way and then he switched. He realized, like, I need to bring in a defensive guy who can outthink whatever's happening, the moves that were made against us by Ohio State.
Right.
And he's like, I have to let go of those reins. And I think that experience will probably help him as a professional coach too.
I think so. And the Rams have always drafted well, even going back to the Aaron Donald pick.
Yeah.
And it's so triggering for me because
was he Pitt?
Pitt.
Yeah.
And he was mocked.
Last great player to come from Pitt.
Probably. Him and then Fitzgerald before him.
Right.
I remember every mock draft had Aaron Donald going to the Bears. Bears were picking 14th, I believe. And I was at Radio City Music Hall, and I was doing some fashion stuff for NFL Now and all that stuff.
Right.
And I remember how just stunned I was because the Rams had Robert Quinn, Chris Long. Like, there's no way they're taking a defensive player. And they drafted Aaron Donald. And I'm like, you can't, like, when you, again, talking about the things that have gone wrong since Devin Hester's return, like, that is one of them that sticks with me. And the funny thing is the guy who they drafted was named Kyle Fuller, who was a
I remember
reliable cornerback.
Yes.
In week 1 of the 2018 season, the Bears were smoking the Packers. Rodgers leaves on a cart, comes back. Rodgers is leading the comeback. He throws what should have been a pick six right to him. And he just drops it. And just drops it. And then the whole trajectory of the Bears changes.
After that drop?
Well, if the Bears would have held on to win that game, they would have been the 2 seed instead of the 3 seed, which means they would have had the first round bye, which means they wouldn't have played Philadelphia, which means either the Rams or the Cowboys. Either the Rams or the Cowboys would have gone to Chicago in the divisional round. It probably would have been the Rams. The Rams never play well in Chicago, especially late in the year.
Yeah.
They would have gone to the NFC Championship game against the Saints, and I would have taken my chances. Or else they would have played host to the Eagles in the NFC Championship game.
And they're still hosting.
The double doink could have happened for the Super Bowl, but still.
Amazing.
A lot of things changed.
Incredible.
Oof.
All right, should we take a break?
Before we take a break, I want to hear 3, because you are such a great fantasy
Pundit.
Pundit. I want 3 tips to help our fan, because this is coming out right. And then if you want to check out everything, just tell them how they can read up so they can kick ass in their leagues with you.
But who are 3 guys that people aren't talking about, and you're like, when should
grab
they get
this
him?
pick? No one's going to grab him.
And grab him here.
Well, the first thing that you got to know, understand your league scoring setting. I think is the most important thing I'd have to do. Before you draft, just go out there and be like, is it 6 points for passing touchdowns or is it 4? Do we favor running quarterbacks? Whatever it is. And also, like, if you play with like 2 running backs and 2 receivers, it's vastly different from having 2 running backs and 3 receivers. So just know those little things because it'll help you. Because when you have 2 running backs and 2 receivers, you actually got to be better at the quarterback position.
That's
it's
right.
It's a weird little thing.
That's interesting.
But also, I prefer to start your draft with like bona fide studs. I know a lot of people love high upside guys, and nobody loves that more than me. But I want to make sure that my first 4 or 5 guys are reliable. Like,
are you running back, wide receiver, tight end, and then get to your quarterback?
And then we can start getting quirky. Then we
but
can start taking
quarterback like 5th round, or what are you, or 4th round?
Depending on the scoring. But yeah, I had drafted Nico Collins the other day.
Smart.
So I said, well, so when I'm looking for a quarterback, I'm like, I'm gonna combine him with C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
And see how that goes. I get Tank Dell later.
Yeah.
Just so everything's completely fortified. And then make sure you have a rookie running back at some point. And it's Blake Corum, it's Trey Benson in Arizona, Audric Estime, Kamani Vidal, the Troy guy out of for the Chargers. Then we have Tyrone Thompson for the Giants, Jalen Wright in Miami, and then there's one guy I'm forgetting, and it's gonna ruin me because I can't think of it. Oh, Bucky Irving.
Yeah,
Bucky everybody,
Irving, Oregon.
Everybody is overdrafting Rachaad White so much. Bucky Irving has looked great as a receiver.
Yeah,
but you got to have one of those guys because that's the Puka Nacua or the guy that Kyron Williams.
Yes,
it's one of those players that you get that will help you win.
I mean,
I had Nico Collins in his breakout year. No one picked him. Got him late. I'm like, I know him from Michigan. I don't know, and he broke out, and that was a boost that no one could have seen. Won me a couple weeks.
I had terrible quarterbacks last year, but Tyreek Hill.
There it is.
And Breece Hall. So like those
Breece Hall, yeah.
Breece
Hall's my second guy off the board.
Yeah.
Almost to the point of like I was doing a draft on Saturday. And I had ended up with the first overall pick. But we had picked names out of a hat. We were doing it on a board. And I'm like, I don't like the first pick. And my friend who had the 4th pick goes, do you want to switch? And I said, sure. We'll just trade. And I don't want anything else. I just want pick number 4 because I figured Breece Hall was going to fall to me.
Did he?
He did.
Yeah. Amazing.
So that was your number 1 pick.
What was 1, 2, and 3 in that draft?
So
it
was CMC. And then it was
CMC will always be.
Then it was CeeDee Lamb and then Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
So CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill, anyone who I've ever played who's had either of those guys, it's like
almost unstoppable.
Unstoppable. There's a moment where I'm like, I'm up 30, and then I'm like, oh my God, we're tied.
What?
We're tied?
Yeah.
Worst feeling ever.
It's the worst to go into the night game up 30, and they still have Tyreek Hill.
And it's like
God damn it.
Night.
I lost. I feel so bad. I keep checking my phone. Miserable. It's a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
So if you don't want that feeling, you grab one of those guys early. Or Breece Hall, you're saying.
Breece Hall is fine with me.
I love it. So rookie running back, grab one at 1 point. have it on your bench.
Get it? Yeah, you want
Get
it.
studs who are bona fide point getters early.
And then once you get to round 6, don't worry about defenses. Don't worry about kickers. And then you can start, still try to draft good players, but like take your swings.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid, because especially when you get into the double-digit rounds, people will default to somebody they've heard of.
Right.
Will you pick Caleb Williams late?
All the time.
Okay. Because you're like, what if he turns out to be as great as we
he's a
think?
better runner than people give him credit for. He's
So
not.
if you get yards for rushing in your league, you
If
take
he gets
him.
50 yards, that's as good as 250 yards. 50
And he's
yards
going to
rushing.
scramble because he's going to make things happen. That
they
about
will.
him.
They will see it. Yep. He'll get his
Or
opportunities.
125 yards. Sorry, passing. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. All right, let's take a break.
Let's take a break.
Come back with Adam Rank, and we'll tell you how you can follow him and
Get all the tips.
All the
Beat
tips.
the sheesh out of
This is
everybody in
View
your
from
league.
the cheap seats. We'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Adam Rank can be followed. Adam Rank NFL
That's on Instagram.
on Instagram.
And then I got Adam Rank and all the other platforms.
Great, you got it.
Major platforms. The guy on Instagram.
We know he's a
squatting.
British guy.
Yes.
Squatting in your thing.
F that dude.
Get him out of here.
Gotta get him.
But Adam Rank NFL on Instagram. But follow you. They can catch you on the NFL Network.
NFL Network, NFL Fantasy Live. I'm on for. I think they're gonna wedge me into that Wednesday show.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the Insiders on Friday, Good
Yeah.
Morning Football on Thursday. So I'll be all around. And there's
see
some
it.
other shows. We're in negotiations.
What helps you the most for people jumping on and supporting you on Instagram? What's the best thing for people to do?
I like Instagram.
Okay.
The Instagram's been the meanest lately.
Yeah.
well,
just
people
because you're putting stuff out that like it is all about people going after your choices.
Oh, unbelievable! Like when I was posting fantasy
you idiot.
tips,
You don't know shit about shit. And you're like,
Exactly.
I do actually.
Good. Yeah. Don't,
And then I
don't
would-
go by my tips.
and I go on there and I put like, because I'm verified and all that stuff. The first comment will be like, "Hey, do the opposite of what I say" button. So people go and they hit like because they want to do the opposite of what Rank says.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, then keep breathing.
Right.
I don't know.
Exactly. Keep breathing.
I'm
Keep
just
breathing. Do the opposite.
I get frustrated, and the Bucky Irving one is I'm just waiting for it because I've watched this
Dude,
unfold
He's
in
gonna be
training
great.
camp,
He's going to be great.
and I am gonna be insufferable.
I mean, he's 165 pounds. Right? He's very small.
No, but
so like
he's
he will.
fun.
But he's tough, and he was great at Oregon.
Yeah.
He was like the go-to guy that would, if you watched any Pac-12 or now Big Ten stuff, you
knew that was a guy who was electric.
Yeah.
Or could be electric. And if that happens once or twice,
I know. Before we get into quick hits, we should mention we're going to be in
yes.
Ann Arbor, Michigan on September 27th at the Michigan Theater. It's a huge theater. We want to sell this thing out. All you people who are going to be there for alumni weekend, parents and family weekend. This is your thing you're going to do on Friday night, 8 p.m. Michigan Theater. Then the next night the next day we beat Minnesota. Hopefully win the little brown jug and then take that back and buy Recruits hamburgers during a dead period.
yes.
I'm
All
sure
good
everybody,
stuff.
Everybody who listens, they've had to see you live at least.
Oh yeah, I mean
Oh,
the
30
fans
times,
who
right?
it is. First of all, we love meeting anybody who's like, I listen to your podcast from
Yeah.
the day one.
But come see a live show. I remember one time at the Hollywood Improv, before you guys had started working at the NFL Network, and we were in the bar ahead of time, and I walked up to you, Randy, and I said, "Hey, you know what? I love the cheap sheets. Such a good show." And you were so nice.
Oh, dude, I
so
loved it.
like such a nice person, and like we had no history together
Right.
or anything like that. But you took time and you were very accommodating, and I was like, "Oh, I love those guys." And the cool thing about your guys' show too, if I can just promote this for a little bit, I love how much it changes. Like a lot of times, like there are some comedians, and I won't call them out, where you're just
Same
like,
act.
wow, that's been like 10 years running now.
It's a long time going.
We work really hard to cycle in a new 30 minutes every
Hopefully
every
year
year.
because look, we were
Yeah.
just in Detroit.
Well,
in-
I've seen like all the stuff that I see. I'm like, oh wow, brand new.
New.
It can't help but be new because it's topical.
right, and we're trying our best to like get as much new stuff in there because there are people who came and saw us in Detroit in March who are going to then come to see us in Ann Arbor. We want to give them new stuff so that they haven't seen it before.
I mean, don't get it wrong. When I go see Blink 182, I want to hear "Damn It" at the
That's
end. Of the
wanna
show.
hear it?
okay. So
But-
that's the difference between comedians and bands. When a band is like, we're going to play the new album, everyone's like, boo.
Comedians are like, yeah.
I was at a Wilco show at the Greek Theater, and Jeff Tweedy, so funny, was like, okay, here's the deal. We're going to play the new album in order right now. If you want to go to the bathroom and go get a drink outside, go do it. But that's what we're fucking doing, and then we're going to play the old hits. And I suggest you stick around and watch all of it, but you can do whatever the fuck you want to do. I was like, yes!
So
well, if comedians are like, I'm going to do this bit that I did last year. I was watching a clip of Sam Morril, and someone was like, you were great, but this is supposed to be new material night, right? He's like, yeah. She's like, you did 2 jokes that you did before. He's like, sorry. You want your money back?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's do some
quick
quick hits. Marvin Harrison Jr. already has a lawsuit filed.
I mean, you know this
by
thing.
Fanatics. You know this?
This is insane. I mean, at least it's not like an old Civil
He's got
War musket in a
zero fantasy points, 1 lawsuit.
Oh, God.
He's got 1 draft day suit, 1 lawsuit. Now Marvin
He's going to be a
Harrison-
great player.
Yes.
He will be.
Maserati Marv will be good, but is
Oh my God.
Where is
Roma
he? Where is
Dunze
he?
better than Marvin Harrison? Make that prediction year
Yeah,
one.
totally.
Fantasy?
Where's Maserati Marv? Is he in
Arizona.
Arizona.
You know what? He's got a real opportunity because he doesn't have much in the way of competition.
Right.
He doesn't have DJ Moore and Keenan Allen.
He'll see the field.
But he's going to get a lot of He's going to get more targets and everything. But I feel that at the end of the year, Roma Dunze is going to be one of those players that when you look at the list of like, hey, people who won their fantasy leagues, who are the most common players that they had, and Roma Dunze is going to be that guy. Roma Dunze is going to be drafted and dropped a ton, and then people are going to scramble
To get him back.
to pick him up and be like, oh my God, this guy is so good.
Well, if you're Marvin Harrison, you can be in a
And
lawsuit.
Roma Dunze was ahead of him on the Bears board too.
So there you go.
That's who he was actually the number 2 guy on the Bears board.
And they got him.
They got both.
They
their
got
top
1
2
and
guys.
2. So Marvin Harrison Sr. has now been roped into the lawsuit. He's saying that Harrison's saying he never signed anything.
So this is a
Company that
bizarre
signed
thing.
something
So
with them.
Fanatics.
I'm not saying anything about Marvin Harrison Sr. though.
Right. No, don't. Because
Didn't he hide a Civil War gun in a car wash bucket?
He might have shot
say
somebody.
anything.
We don't know. We don't know.
Say anything.
Don't say a
Be
word.
cool.
Be everybody.
You want to start mess with this guy?
Nope.
No. But so he does.
There's so many weird things about this. It's like if you do something suspect, you're gonna get caught.
Right.
This is it. So
Marvin Harrison Sr. signed his name for Harrison Jr. And then Jr. said, I didn't sign anything. My company signed. It's not me.
and then
It's
someone's
something-
like, "This looks an awful lot like Junior's signature versus
Right.
Senior's signature." It's like
What
when
are you
someone
guys
does something
doing?
bad in a casino.
Yeah.
You don't think there's a camera everywhere,
Right.
You're gonna get caught. This is what happens. So what's gonna happen to him? So lawsuit, Fanatics.
We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen, but not a great start to your NFL career to be dealing with court dates and bullshit. You know that when you come into the league, you're already behind the 8 ball. If
Right.
you are a high draft pick and you are new to the NFL speed and playbook, you got
Also, Marvin Harrison, you are gonna make your money on your second contract. Just
Yes.
be great right now. The majority of the money that will be life-changing generational money.
Forget Fanatics.
Yeah.
You probably made way more than that at Ohio State.
I'm sure he did.
Forget Fanatics. Say
or
to-
just sign the
or
thing
sign
with
the deal and
Fanatics
just be like, I'll take
it
a shitty Fanatics
for
deal
2 years.
Give me a bad Fanatics deal. I'll get taken to the car wash, so to speak.
Fanatics deal.
Let's stay in the NFL. Los Angeles Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh lauded quarterback Justin Herbert and the other players who were stuck in an elevator
Best sitcom storyline
for 2
ever.
hours.
Did he deliver
at
a pregnant
at
a
the
baby
team hotel?
from a
Was it a
pregnant lady?
flashback to all the other episodes?
All the other times at the Chargers. Remember when we were in San Diego?
2 hours in the team hotel before a preseason game in Dallas. Harbaugh said Herbert was among the 11 or 12 players in the elevator. 11 or 12?
That's a lot.
How big is this elevator?
How many
You're taking
you've
the
gotten on
front of-
elevators before? Where you're
Yeah,
like,
be
how
all
would they-
cornerbacks.
by the way, if there are
could
six,
have been linemen.
I'm sorry.
Oh
if there
my
are
gosh.
6 people in an elevator,
I'm out.
we'll take the next one.
I'll take the next one. You guys
You
are
know
done.
who else was in the elevator? Jerry Fouts, wife of Pro Football Hall of Famer Dan Fouts. Now, Randy and I have always said about Dan Fouts. We said this on the Rome show, and I believe this to be true.
One of the best, most well-kept beards I've ever seen.
In all of
100%.
sport, and he needs to come up with his own like wall clippers and
Called
call them Fouts
Foutses.
clippers.
Yeah, have you foutsed your beard? You should fouts
Yes.
that beard a
I
little
should
bit.
fouts this.
Your
Fouts
beard
that
looks
one.
good, but if you Fouts
Fouts it a little bit, it cleans
Fouts
it
it a
up.
little bit, yes.
Cleans it.
Fouts up the beard. So
Also, like one of my favorite quarterbacks ever to watch because
Yes.
he just in a system.
I loved his drop back.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
just
that whole
drop, 29 steps.
The whole thing when he's just backpedaling.
Back.
I coach U10 soccer, and I try to get those girls to backpedal.
Backpedal
like Dan
Fouts style. You got to Fouts it
I
backwards.
send them Fouts YouTube clips.
Fouts.
Watch this. This is how I need you to backpedal. when
But
you're playing
tremendous arm strength.
Unbelievable.
Because he'd be
amazing.
falling back and hit Kellen
touch.
Winslow.
Amazing touch.
Oh, my God.
Fire officials said the elevator was stuck somewhere between the 3rd and 15th floors.
Be
Wait,
specific.
defense.
The 3rd and 15th.
It's a 15-story building.
Right.
Thank you.
Somewhere in the building.
They said that they're staying at the downtown Westin in Dallas. All right, Chargers
Unreal.
won the preseason game, and Harbaugh's quote was the most
so Harbaugh
quote
ever.
Only he could turn this into like a team moment.
Right.
Quote, you get in those situations.
What? Stuck in an elevator?
Who is it?
There's no situation. That is the weirdest
You
thing.
get in those situations like it happens a lot.
Right.
And it's a test of wills, Harbaugh said. I was proud of each of the guys and the 2 women that were on that elevator. That's a win. You feel good about yourself. You were challenged. It was a test of will, and you put it down or you pull in.
You know what? That's because the Chargers have been lacking wins over the decades.
You got to take them where you can get them.
Harbaugh wants to be 1-0 before the season's over.
1-0.
But there is something about that weird optimism about a strange thing that you turn into this motivation.
So you makes, I think, like 4 Chargers players. They're like, this guy might be weird, but he is thinking about us and he's protecting us out in the world.
Yeah.
He's going to use his crazy to shield whatever's going on back here. Whereas, like, I don't know if
it's like crazy
Anthony
cover.
Lynn
It's like,
did
do
that.
something crazy over there so I can run over here and steal this thing.
You know what's the funniest thing about this is one of the dads who on my U10 team, he's a Chargers fan.
Yeah.
He actually said I was like Harbaugh. He's like, you're such a nutcase on the sideline. I'm not like cursing kids, and I never say anything derogatory. I'm just like more of a cheerleader.
Yeah.
But he's like, you have that sort of thing, and I'm like, I guess I do. Like, you're looking at it like, hey, you know what? We're going to Del Taco.
That's right.
None of you ran out into the street. That was a win.
That's a win.
The way you all came together.
You came together in order.
Nobody spilled Del Scorcho. That's a win. The Red Lightning rides again.
Del Scorcho. Shout out to the Red Lightning.
Seriously. All right, finally, ESPN commentator got a real injury from a fantasy league. I'm sure you heard about this. Dislocating his shoulder while determining his fantasy football draft order. It was caught on
he
tape.
pumped really hard.
Field Yates. You know Field Yates.
I know Field Yates.
A longtime ESPN personality who hosts a show.
The Fielding Yost.
All about fantasy football was out on the beach with his co-hosts for a skills competition to figure out who would pick up the first fantasy. Runs shoulder first into what is essentially a weeble wobble. It's not like a tackle dummy. It's not like he went into the sled hard. Because I played basketball. Recently, I was in a pickup basketball. Recently, I say a couple years ago. I shouldered into a brick wall of a dude to try and, like, I don't know, draw a foul and like bounce off. My shoulder hurt so badly. I'm like, forever for the rest of my life. My shoulder's screwed. 6 months.
Yeah.
Took 6 months.
But that guy was an immovable object.
Right. This was like a balloon, almost like a...
Yeah, it's like a weeble wobble.
He knocked it over, and then he was clutching his arm, and he's like, that was a mistake.
That is, that's not a proud moment.
No, it's on video.
And I'm going to need time to stand up when we're done here because...
The crackle of your knees.
With soccer practice starting, I coach both my girls U10 and my sons U7. The quads are firing because I start every practice by who can beat the coach. And we race. We race
Eisen style.
Touchline to touchline.
Amazing.
Until somebody beats me, and I'm an old man. So they eventually, one of these kids is going to get me.
They have the energy.
But it'll be 5 or 6 laps. And I'm like, this is a bad idea. Somebody needs to get faster. And I would not, I know.
End it sooner, kids.
And you're a fantasy guy.
A fantasy.
Know your lane. I'm sorry.
It's like, you know what? It's like the time we used to do a show. You might remember Fantasy and Friends. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And MJD was on this show. And this just shows you, this is why I would,
who I love.
You gotta, this is where you gotta know your place, is on a Monday, we had a pull-up bar outside the studio.
Don't do it.
And I beat MJD in a pull-up contest.
I mean, he's
on
carrying a lot of weight, and none of it's good.
Here's the thing. So I had like 12. He had 1. And then our researcher, she was roasting him.
Oh, boy.
By Friday, MJD did 19.
Of course.
He took him a week to surpass me athletically, which should show you're built different than athletes. Like they're better at this.
MJD told us on a podcast I rushed for 1,605 yards for the Oakland Raiders. And
was it the Jaguars or the Raiders?
I think the Raiders. And then he was like, I was in practice the next year.
Camp.
Yeah. I missed a hole. And immediately they're like, number two, get up, get in. It's like, are you serious? You're going to throw me away? Do you know what I did last year because I missed one hole right here?
Yeah.
He saw that and was like, I can't let Rank beat me.
That's what happened.
I can't let Rank outrank me.
He's not
he remembers being replaced.
So this guy runs into the thing, and now he becomes a laughingstock, and it's his shoulder. And I feel terrible for the guy.
He's going to have to be. I feel terrible.
You bring that on. I mean, everybody's trying to find
the
ways.
funniest way to
how do we do this? Let's do an Olympic style thing or whatever. We were at a golf course in Virginia for a fantasy event. And I said, let's closest to the pin for draft order.
Yeah. Amazing.
Real easy.
Easy and fun and takes skill.
Yeah. And doesn't break your shoulder.
Yes.
Know who you are.
Understand.
Like if you want to make it the hot chip challenge, who lasts the longest, if you want
even that's a little
a little on the edge. If you want to make it like who can count pi to the farthest digit.
Ooh.
Like that's a fun one. All these are things that might work
that don't involve you throwing
your shoulder.
How do you involve the Pythagorean theorem? How do we get that?
How do we get Egypt into this?
How do we get the Egypt?
Get Egypt involved.
It's a look.
Who can make a pyramid?
Pyramid scheme. So that's that. Know your lane. All we're saying.
Yes.
If you want to win at fantasy, just follow this guy.
Follow Adam Rank. Adam Rank NFL on Instagram. Follow him there, and then and find out wherever he's on the NFL Network. Just enjoy him and enjoy his picks because they will help you win your fantasy league, period. We take a break. We'll come back. We have a special voicemail. And for Patreon fans, we have an unbelievable video. Adam's going to stick around and break it down with us. We do two things on our Patreon. If you haven't joined yet, you need to join. New episodes of Cheap Seats, Cheaper Seats. We find the weirdest sports on the internet. Sometimes they're old. Sometimes it's a fireman's competition on Wide World of Sports in Islip, Long Island in 1978 or whatever it is. And sometimes it's just like it's roof ball. We don't even. Sometimes it's Inuit wrestling and those competitions.
And it's cornhole. We don't know. We mix it up.
So do that, and then we find the weirdest thing that's come across our social media feed that has a sports bent to it, and that's the video we're going to break down with Adam Ranks. So, dude, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Stick around for the Patreon. Join the Patreon, and we'll be right back. Adam Rank, everybody. I love him. And stick around for the Patreon. He does a fantastic job in
it is so
the
crazy.
Weirdest sport I've ever seen, and I don't know who is controlling the sport. You have to join our Patreon to watch the whole video. It was so much fun. And Adam Rank practices what he preaches from a fantasy sense. He actually had to make a few picks during the Patreon
and
recording.
He reiterates an amazing tip. Join our Patreon to get
Check that out. Before we get out of here, I'm excited about a John Madden biopic, aren't you?
I say biopic.
Biopic? Nick Cage is rumored to be playing John Madden. He's going to gain a bunch of weight, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. Learn the voice, I'm sure. Hang out with Frank Caliendo, he should.
I'm sure.
Take a listen.
Jason, Randy, how are you doing? It's Nicolas Cage. You know, I've been hearing all the scuttlebutt and all the hullabaloo of people who are saying, hey, what the hell is Nicolas Cage doing playing John Madden? Well, I can tell you, I'm not listening to you, scuttlebutt or hullabaloo or whatever other 1930s term you use to talk about buzz. I'm not listening to that buzz because Nicolas Cage is playing John Madden. And this is one of the most complex roles that I've ever taken on. John Madden is a man who played football. And then after he played football, he went out and he fucking coached football. And then after he coached football, he went out and he talked about football on television. Such a complex human being, so many levels. But everyone's like, oh, Nicolas Cage, you're one of the most fit human beings possible. You're one of the most well-crafted bodies that exist in this world. How in the hell are you going to become John Madden? Because John Madden is arguably a blob of human flesh. How are you going to get there? And I'm telling you right now, I'm putting on weight so aggressively, guys. I'm currently eating ice cream and donuts mixed together while I'm having butter being fed to me intravenously. I've already put on 75 pounds in 2 days. Is that dangerous? I don't give a fuck because I'm going to win an Oscar for this role. I'm going to put all that weight on and then I'm going to rip it back off because I want to win that. I have to play him as an old man. I have to play him as a young man. So I'm going to rip all that weight off and then I'm going to play football. And Nicolas Cage is going to be running routes and catching passes and waving it in people's faces and you won't even know what to do with yourself because mark your calendars now, boys. I am winning an Oscar for this. Book your tickets. The Dolby Theater 2025 or whenever the fuck this thing's coming out. Nicolas Cage will be there accepting that award, and I will laugh at all of you who thought this was a joke because this is an actual thing that is actually happening. Nick Cage is playing John Madden. Let's fucking go.
There you go, gang. I'm not going to disagree with it. And
Is there a script?
Nick Cage can do anything. It does not matter. I will pay and see that. There you go. This heartbreaking work of staggering genius. That's who he is. That was Dave Eggers, but it's Cage too. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Adam Rank.
Get your tickets for Ann Arbor. We'll
Thank
see you on
you,
the 27th.
Kenny G. Stevenson. I love you, buddy.
He's got a great show here in
fantastic.
L.A. They do an improvised show starting from the casting all the way through to putting on a show. It's brilliant. Check him out.
At Kenny G. Stevenson. Check him out. He's a contributor to the show. We will see you guys in Ann Arbor on the 27th. We will see you in L.A. at Largo on the 9th
of September.
27th will be at the Michigan Theater.
27th of September.
27th of September.
We're going to be in Vegas in October.
Yep.
We're going to be in Fort Collins in November and then St. Louis at the Flower Fest in November. Lots of great stuff. Come see us in lots of places.
Supersklars.com. We'll see you there. Punch Waterfall. We're out.